Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Mountaineer Locker Room right now. I'm Greg Crist, along with my friend Coach right here, my coach Dr. right here, and we appreciate everybody tuning in here on the Mountaineer Locker Room here on the New River Network, Boys College Football Friends. As always, by the time Wednesday gets here, 15 different ways we can go with this. There's a lot of stuff going on in the Mountaineer world. Springtime and baseball is the focal point right now. Still lots of things going on in basketball, football, all the other sports. So a lot to talk about.
Boy, is that for sure. I was mentioning before the show that luckily I'm in Michigan right now. Luckily, with our cable system, we get the Big Ten Network. So I had a chance to watch the game live, not on ESPN Plus last night, but it was on the Big Ten Network. And I was mentioning to Darren, our producer, that you would have thought it was a national championship game for Penn State last night. That facility was full, and when they got the final strike and beat the Mountaineers 3-2, the players stormed the field, and that was the first time they had beaten a ranked team in 2 years. So that was a big deal for the Nittany Lions.
I just figured we were going to win because all year long we've come back one in the last inning. That one. One down one, they walked it up, hit her. I thought, all right, here we go. It didn't work out that way, but it was a good game. They're good baseball games. I guess the thing about baseball is people get distraught, like when they lose that game last night. Baseball's a long season. They play a lot of games. You're not going to win them all, and that was a fun game to watch. It was a competitive game, good game, and a lot of fun. But that baseball team is pretty good. They're pretty solid all the way around. If you watch them, once they got into Big 12 play, I know early on a lot of people didn't know for sure. Just because of the competition level, but you watch them in the Big 12, and they're solid. They got good pitching. They hit the ball, timely hitting. They run the bases very well. They're very aggressive. So it's a fun baseball team to watch play. Also, we looking at basketball. I know we were all concerned, with again the way all that transpired, but it appears, and I know you prepared some things for tonight's show, graphic-wise. It appears that Coach Hodges has jumped into the boiling pot and is starting to pluck some folks out of it. And it looks like some pretty good looking basketball players moving in here with us. So I'm going to have Darren here in just a second, put that graphic up, and we can talk about that just a little bit. But I know that's exciting stuff too. The thing I always take from that is you see these players and you start reading their stats and all that. You're like, oh, okay, not bad. Or you'll see we signed this big guy. He's 7 foot, 260 pounds, interior guy, big, strong guy. And you look and he averages two points and 1 rebound a game. And you're like, okay. But I think with these guys that he's brought in so far, pretty impressive lot.
Throw up that basketball graphic, we can take a look at it. You mentioned that it's a situation where there's so much going on, and both portals are closing now. The basketball portal, I believe, is closed, and the football portal, I know, closes Friday. And so there's been a rush of activity. We're not going to talk about football yet because the chess pieces are still being moved around and put on the chessboard. But we'll do that next week. But this is where we are with basketball, Greg. And it's too soon to make any assessment. But you got to give Coach Hodge and his staff a lot of credit. They hit the ground running and they pulled together a good group of folks. Eagle staff, clearly from North Dakota, is a player everybody wanted. And then you've got the guard from UT Chattanooga that led his team to a NIT championship. and they've got a spread. They've got a real big man, 300-pounder. In the middle, they've got strong forwards. They've got shooting guards. Darren, if you could magnify or enlarge that graphic a bit, I want folks to look at the bottom because, and want to thank 24/7 Sports and Chris Anderson for that, because it's a legend of, okay, who transferred out and where are they going? Jonathan Powell, UNC. We know that Tucker was going to Indiana, et cetera, et cetera. And then the recruits getting out of the national, all the three McDonald's All-Americans that were signed have asked to be released from their national liner. And then the players that lost their eligibility. And so the roster is set by the NCAA as a max of 15. And what we've got, 7 or 8 guys there? When you consider how quickly they had to move, I think, Greg, it looks promising.
Yeah, I think so too. And again, I don't know a lot about these players, obviously, and I did watch some video of Eaglestaff for sure, and he's pretty impressive. I don't know a lot about the players, but I'm sure, even though it is has to be a quick thing, a quick turnover. I'm sure that he's focusing on types of players, that he likes, that he wants, and the type of player he likes to coach. So, it's encouraging from that end of it that he's been able to get in what looks like some pretty talented individuals. And again, his if you watched his team play, his focus was defense. He likes that defense, and hopefully they, looking at the portal, that's what he's looking for is people can play. Now, Eaglestaff is quite a scorer, and I don't know defensively. I guess if you're into coaching and you watch a lot of film on these guys, who can or who will and who won't, and you just hope that these players that he is bringing in, it's not going to be like in times past we just bring in whoever you can bring in and hope they worked out, which it seems like. Not last year, but prior years, it seems like that's what we did. This seems more like a constructed piece, a constructed roster, and I think that's one of the things that these coaches are adapting to and learning how to do is not just go out there in the portal. It's almost like the draft. You just don't go out there and draft the best player available. You go out there and you bring in people that fit your system and what you want to do, what your philosophy is. You get people to fit into that, and let's see, I got a message here. It says about a patch installation. I'm not sure what that is. Hopefully they don't shut off on you. But anyway, you get people that are systematic, that fit into your system, not just the best player available or the best person out there. Now, hopefully that's what he's doing. I think you just look at this roster, that appears to be what he is doing.
Yeah, absolutely. And, one of the things we talked about last week, Greg, there's so much angst about the portal and free agency in college sports. And one of the things we talked about last week was that one of the good things about the portal, and we're seeing it with this new roster, is it gives the players who have distinguished themselves at the mid-major level, sometimes even below in Division II, a chance to move up and play D1 basketball. Yep. That would have been more difficult in a pre-portal era. So if you look at, and as you know, one of the things I do is I just love watching the mid-majors and which teams might spring an upset, be a Cinderella in March Madness. And so I follow teams like St. Bonaventure and Chattanooga, and especially North Carolina, Wilmington. They're really good teams, and they have good players. And so they're getting an upgrade by playing in the Big 12. And so that means they're going to have a lot of juice ready to come into the season. We lost Greg. How about that? Any rate, it's too bad. Greg will come back. But you know what we could do in the meantime, Darren, if you could throw up the baseball graphic, we'll finish that, and then we'll bring in Derek Christian and talk about him, his great career, not only in Morgantown, but since. And so if you could enlarge that a bit so Everybody can see it, even if it blocks me. Nobody's going to be concerned about that. The season obviously is coming to an end, as we talked about earlier. We're 34-5 overall. That's the highest winning percentage in the country. Even though Clemson has won 2 more games, they've lost a few more. So by percentage points, we're considered the number 1 percentage-wise team in the country. We have 14 games left. Only 2 are non-conference games. Marshall and Charleston coming up next week, and then Pitt at Pitt, not in the big stadium, the Pirate Stadium, but at their home ballpark after that. And so we're in first place right now in the Big 12, where the RPI rank is number 17 in the country, 15 in the country. We're ranked number 17 in the country, first in the Big 12. We're going to play UCF this weekend, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday on the road. And then we come back and play Texas Tech, K-State on the road again. Texas Tech will be at home. And then we finish with KU. KU is now in second place. So the big news is that TCU, one of the other really good teams in the conference, we're not playing them in a regular season. And so we're just going to have to wait and see on that. And if you look at the bottom of the middle column, WVU is just it just done incredibly so, in the sense that we're number 1 in pitching, number 2 in hitting, and we're only 2 percentage points off having the highest batting average in the league. That is UCF. So that's going to be an interesting series this weekend. Their average is 316, ours 314, and then we just keep our fingers crossed. Hopefully, we'll get a regional, and we'll have an opportunity to show the nation what we can do. Losing to Penn State hurt, but we had a 13-game winning streak. The Big 12 is not necessarily getting a lot of kudos this year. Only Arizona at number 16 is ranked with WVU. Other teams have been ranked during the season, but we're the highest ranked RPI right now in the league at 15 with our RPI. We're ranked 17th in the polls, and we're just going to have to see. And want to thank NCAA, D1 Baseball, and ESPN for those statistics. And but so baseball, basketball, and then now that the portal is closed or will close on Friday, we'll be ready next week once everything gets on the chess piece. That looks like our roster, at least going into the summer drills. So Craig has not rejoined us, and so let's forge ahead and bring in a guest that we've been looking forward to having on the show for a long time. Those of you who followed Mountaineer football back in the 80s know this name. If you look at the record of those 81 through 85 teams, really good ball clubs, Derek was a stellar player. And Darren, let's bring in Derek Christian. There you are.
Hello.
You got to be ready to sign autographs after tonight, buddy. I'll tell you.
I tell you, I've had a lot of people come up to me, and I guess Mark Parsons I posted a picture, and it's everybody's been showing it to me. So I appreciate the opportunity to come back on the show and reminisce a little bit about the past.
Yeah, it's interesting. I was telling the guys before the show started, and I talked with Mark as well, Mark Parsons does a great job of helping us line up guests. And he said a lot of people, a lot of interest on social media for Derek. And I think, it's another example, Derek, of those 1980 teams, the early Nehlen years, all the way through the decade. And you were there almost at the beginning through the middle of the decade. A lot of people know I'm working on another WVU sports book, and this one's going to be on basketball. And believe it or not, there's a section in that basketball book that talks about the tightness of the teams back then. You were on those teams, and how that tightness continues through this day. And to me, as an alum, it's a real point of pride to see the guys that played back then on the gridiron not only be together as a teams when they played, but stick together and basically demonstrate, I think, in their behaviors what it means to be a true Mountaineer.
Yeah, we were, I like to tell people it was kind of the grassroots years of the Coach Nehlen era. Really, the foundation was put in place in those early 80 teams, and the expectations were set. The bar was Greg's ready to fly away on us there. But it was a great time, and again, the closeness of the team, and we talked about this last week a little bit, but we just built that bond together. We worked together, practiced together, played together. It was just a unique situation, and one that I'll never forget.
Yeah, and when I look at that, when I look at the record of those teams back then, Derek, you were 42-16-1 over the years that you played. 3 9-3 records, an 8-4, a 7-3. I mean, you played in bowls three of the years, won all of them except one. It was just beaten in the Gator Bowl by Florida State, but it was just it was a great time. And I was thinking about all the great players that came out of St. Albans as you did, and I've talked with a lot of the guys that played back in the day, and they always talk about the great teams and the great players from that neck of the woods in West Virginia. Just a great place to play high school ball.
Predominant areas for athletics, not only football, basketball, and baseball as well, and all sports actually. And for myself, I was fortunate to have a couple icons as coaches at St. Albans for football, Homer Criddle, former Mountaineer, and then Coach Tex Williams, who obviously is a legend in the state. Helped me become the person I was as well. It was just exciting, and we had good teams back then, and just again a lot of great athletes. Of course, there was a lot more people at that time in Kanawha Valley, but there were 11 or 12 high schools, and it was just the competition was tremendous.
Yeah, and then you went on later to become head coach of your alma mater.
I did. I had an opportunity to be the head coach, football coach, which was one of my goals when I started coaching, and got the opportunity and worked with kids at St. Albans High School for about 9 years, and it was just an exciting time there. And we had some really good football teams.
Great. I brought it down to the 20, Greg. You're here, so now you bring it over the goal. You bring it over the goal line.
I'm not exactly sure my computer just randomly decided to reboot. I would just quit.
It happens.
Technology. And Frank, before we go any further, I think if you haven't noticed at the bottom, we have a special guest that's made another appearance. It looks like I haven't seen him since Morgantown. I know Derek will enjoy this guy. I hope he can hear us, and I can certainly hear him.
I thought it was you.
I think it's him, and I think it's his helicopter's trying to fire up, I believe. There he is, Muggy McLeod. Derek, this is our weather and traffic man for the NRN Chopper 1 helicopter. And Muggy, a noisy Muggy, welcome to the show. Oh, Muggy's leaving.
I don't know what's, that's
Muggy
interesting.
Fell out of the helicopter. I think he told me he could see us, but he couldn't hear us, Jared.
Oh, he can't hear us.
He don't know we're watching his every move, so we'll.
Well.
I'm gonna text him and tell him, but he's unmute. It's odd you can hear everything going on, but you can't hear him. I think his helicopter just died finally. So anyway, I can tell he still can't hear. Well, Derek, anyway, let's right now. We'll get to Muggy here in a minute, but appreciate you taking the time to get on with us. I know I've told Frank several times throughout the week, you're always one of my favorite players to come and watch. I always loved watching you play. And I know in the history of Mountaineer football, we've had lots and lots and lots of good players, good linebackers. You stand out as one of those, and it was always so much fun to watch you play.
Well, thank you. Appreciate that. And you're right. There have been a lot of great linebackers come through there and great football players. And, it's just, it was an honor to play there. And again, a lot of great friendships were developed at that time and still friends with them today. And speak often with some of the former teammates. And it was just, like I said, it was the grassroots years. And that, like, every year I was there from 81 through 85. Well, actually, they was recruiting me in 1980, saw the first game against Cincinnati there. And every year that I was there was new construction in some shape or form of something going on there. And that program just grew in leaps and bounds. And again, that's a testament to Coach Nehlen and all his staff and all the athletic people up there at the time to bring Mountaineer football up into the future, so to speak. And the games were just part of it, and we were successful. And again, there was a lot of good football players on there. All those, I was thinking the other day that all those guys that I went in with in 81, they all were either starter or major contributor to the teams there that Frank had mentioned went to all those bowl games.
Yeah, and the thing about it is, I don't want to mix up my eras, but if I recall, you played at about 6'4", 230. Yeah, that was pretty big back then, wasn't it?
Oh, Coach Dunlap was always getting on me. I was playing too high, and which was always funny. But he was a great coach and helped me a lot as far as developing as a linebacker and a football player.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of folks that watch and listen to the show, they like to hear about Coach Nehlen and what that was like. And we're gonna. I think Muggy is back in that room again. Muggy, can you hear us? All right, let's get Muggy done. I think Muggy's got to fly out somewhere else, do some other reports. So let's get Muggy out of the way, and then we'll get back to Derek. Muggy, what's going on? Where are you at today?
Hey, good evening, Coach. Sorry to interrupt your interview there with Mr. Christensen. I remember him playing back in the day when I was going to my meteorological classes there in West Virginia University in Morgantown, West Virginia. Yep. We're just me and Misty and Earl. Earl jumped out of the helicopter there a second ago. I didn't know if you saw him or not, but he had his goggles on, ready to go, and he's World War II flying ace, two flying bandana, whatever you want to call it. Anyway, scarf, I believe is what the rest of the world calls it. But here in Muggy World, we call it all kinds of things. Anyway, Coach, just want to say hello from the One Eye in the Sky, NRN, VOCF, TAN, Traffic and Weather Report. We are flying up here in the Wheeling area tonight just to maybe really catch a glimpse of the Greyhounds over here at the dog track. And we're I wouldn't normally have my goggles on, but again, my foggles are goggling. And, anyway, we were looking out for the Greyhounds over here at the dog track. Earl was excited. He can't catch one, but he sure would like to. But anyway, as we fly around over here before, and as you college gurus and sports fanatics are aware, up in this area is there's a great many of legends this area and from this region exactly, to be honest with you. And while they all swam across the Ohio River from West Virginia to Ohio is baffling, but hey, that's just the way things work out. But we are flying up Route 7 towards Steubenville, Ohio. And did you know that Dean Martin is from Steubenville?
I did. I knew that.
Yes, I've told you that before. But did you know that Raleigh Fingers is from Steubenville? Remember Raleigh Fingers had the nice mustache? Yes. Yep. And let's not forget Sloopy. Remember the song Sloopy? Hey, Sloopy. Hang on, Sloopy.
Hang
Sloopy.
on, Sloopy.
Yes, yes, indeed. Steubenville, Ohio. She was a waitress in a bar there, I believe. Anyway, then we have John Buchigas from ESPN. I'm not sure if that's how you pronounce the name. And on down Route 7, though, in Steubenville, you also get the one-hit wonder Wild Cherry. It's from Steubenville. Can you name their song?
Love Shack.
Yeah, well, close enough. Anyway, I've forgotten myself, so I'll move along. I meant to write that down, but I forgot. Anyway, as we move on down to Bridgeport, Ohio, your favorite in the Bridgeport Bulldog area would be John Havlicek.
Absolutely.
Yes, sir. And I know yours and Mr. Frank Coach Fear is favorite down in the Bel Air area, which the folks, but it's actually Bel Air. Anyway, that would be Mike Sherwood, the quarterback.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
Yes, sir. Just had a dinner there in Blair last night. Anyway, Coach, I just thought I'd bring you guys up to speed on that because I thought, it didn't really mean anything and really wasn't that exciting, but it's all I pretty much had to talk to you about. But otherwise, hey, on a different note, you sports gurus, and maybe Derek would know this. I was on Facebook today, and I see a guy on there bragging about a piece of college football memorabilia he had. It was a 1982 W game ball versus BC.
Oh.
But it was a Wilson NFL ball.
I saw that.
Accurate?
I saw that. Tom Bowman.
Anybody?
I saw
Yeah.
that.
Frank? That's accurate?
It's Tommy.
Did you see the football, Frank?
Yeah. Oh, I didn't pay attention to the
I know
to it. Yeah, it's interesting.
NFL,
Yeah.
NFL.
Wilson NFL. So
Yeah.
I think he may be full of, anyway.
Yeah. No.
Don't buy any wooden nickels from that fella. Okay, Coach. Well, as we often do here on the Muggy McLeod show, One Eye in the Sky, we fly around and check the weather. Tonight's weather, of course, is brought to you by Breaking Tattoo Skin. Breaking Skin Tattoo. Getting a little ahead of myself. I'm out of practice. Out of Bridgeport, Ohio. Do you know their slogan, Coach?
If it ain't broke, don't fix it.
No. Don't be a pussy cat.
Oh, okay.
Yes, come and get your tattoo and don't be a pussy cat. That's right. You have one from there, Coach.
I do.
You are not a pussy cat. Okay, tonight's weather brought to you by, what's that? Jordan Burdett's Power Washing.
Yeah, SB Burdett.
SB Burdett, JB Burdett there in Fayette County. Come and get your cracks cleaned by JB. Tonight's weather, Coach, is a little bit muggy, but, we're moving into from spring to summer, and, it's still a little crappy, but, the forecast isn't looking too bad this week, and we should hit some high notes here in the next couple of days, and then Friday have a little bit of more crappy weather. So, but otherwise, we'll get out of your hair so you can go on to more interesting and enjoyable things like Mr. Christian.
Thank you.
Reminiscing.
All right, Muggy. Appreciate you, buddy.
Okay, this is Muggy McLeod, Misty Rains, Earl the Squirrel, my miniature schnauzer who gets me in fights quite frequently here because he's quite the aggressor. Anyway, Coach, the NRN Chopper 1, voice of college football, then and now. Over and out. Muggy McLeod.
All right, Muggy. Thanks for joining us. All right, Derek. So now, are you reconsidering the idea of even doing this now at this point? Are you thinking?
It's interesting.
We're usually not this discombobulated and
That's quite all right.
just let it be one of these nights. I know I was sitting there while he was talking, thinking, "God, this guy thinks we're idiots." Basically,
We all have to have humor in our life.
Yeah.
Well, Frank and I have talked about we need to jazz up a show a little bit because nobody wants to sit around and listen to two old men talk sports. So we got to throw some extras in there here and there. And if it weren't for our great guest, we'd be in big trouble.
He's your man.
Anyway, I want to go back to Coach Nehlen. I know a lot of people that age and people that watch the show and listen to the show, they like to hear about people's relationship with Coach Nehlen. He's such an icon in the state. And we will always hear such great positive things about him, but we always like to get everybody's perspective on what it was like to play for him and what he meant to you in your life.
Oh, he was just a as everybody knows, he's just a great man. There's nothing pretentious about him. He's just was great to play for. At St. Albans, I had a big golf tournament. He came down and played. His wife at the time was sick, and he wasn't doing very well with his health himself. And he came down and rode around, and I was greatly appreciative of that, and I got to spend some time with him there. And every time I see him, he's just just got a big hug. Just a great guy. I saw him at a benefit at Thomas Hospital a few years ago with Jeff Hostetler and Coach Huggins. And and I asked him, how many lives does he think he's affected with his leadership and his coaching? And he didn't have any idea. And just a great man.
I think, one of the things that says so much about him is when folks come back to Morgantown or where we talk to him or whatever, everybody says the same thing about him. And I've never, in all my years of doing this and talking to folks, never heard a negative thing about him. And as far as coaching and the type of person he is, and I know I don't know him personally, but when I was working in Morgantown 6-7 months ago, we were having a fundraiser, and I'd somehow gotten his contact info, so I gave him a call, and he didn't know me from Adam, and he kept saying, "Now who's this?" And I was explaining who gave me his contact. He said, "Oh, okay." And after that, he said, "Just whatever you need me to do, just tell me. I'll do whatever you want." And that's the type of person he is. He was just willing to help once he found out what we were doing and why we were doing it. He was
exactly very gracious, very humble. He understands the culture here in West Virginia and what the Mountaineers mean to people. And again, just a wonderful person.
Yep. You
every time.
I've been interested to see. I didn't play high school or college sports, but I've always been interested in the transition from a college player, to a high school coach, because it's a different. There's just a different level of ability and physical stature and that sort of thing, mentality. Not an easy world, really. So, what was your transition like here?
I'll never forget my first coaching job was South Charleston High School, 1986. We were watching film, and it was still 16 millimeter.
Yep.
And I was laughing. I said, "Is there any way you can speed this up?" And because it was just, the action was just really slow, and I had to get used to that. And just that was one of the things I thought was funny. But it is a transition, true, because when you're playing college, it's obviously a different atmosphere. In high school, you got young kids who they're developing, and hopefully they've developed some in college, but it's just a different mentality that you have to take with young kids.
You didn't transition from that. But were you in the classroom at the time?
Yes, I taught school. I sure did.
Okay. And then you
I
transitioned.
started out in special education because I had a degree in phys ed and driver's ed from WVU. And they told me it'd be 10 years before I could get a job in PE, and they weren't lying.
Yeah.
So I, cut my teeth on special ed and ended up getting a master's in special ed, and taught basically for 23 years. I taught some form of special education.
Oh, okay. Kind of took the same path I did. When I first started, I taught special ed for several years. I had a social studies degree until I got into a history class finally. I spent 32 years doing it. But now you have ascended to the administrative end of things.
I am a bit. You're right.
And I'm gonna tell you, I the whole time, all the years I taught. Of course, I always go to coaches for this. Why don't you get your administrative certificate so you can be a principal? And I always said it was like a police officer's job. it's a job I just didn't think I wanted to do because, especially, I think you were assistant principal, and in all the schools I taught in, the assistant principal was always the guy in charge of discipline, and all you got to see was problems all day. So,
we deal with that. Fortunately, at where I'm at Winfield High School, our problems are minimal, which is
yeah,
we're at a great school. And you're right, it's dealing with discipline. And I've been in right at 15 years in administration, and it's a different world these days. You like coaches don't even go into to administration much anymore, and really, that's one of the things about athletics in high school is the educators are not coaching anymore. It's turning into people in the community and parents, and you have a lot of turnover. Whereas I'm sure in your time and Frank's time that, the coaches were in place for 20, 30 years, and then you knew who was going to be coaching. And I knew I was going to play for Tex Williams, and I knew I was going to play for who I was going to play for. And you look forward to that. And now it's just kind of a revolving door. You have some educators that coach. Don't get me wrong; they're still there, but
right.
it's starting to get fewer and fewer.
Yep. That's one thing for sure that we've all of us have been in the business have noticed. You mentioned Tex Williams, great friend of mine. Tex done a lot with us with our podcast over the years. Down there at the Arty Museum, we've been down there a few times, did some shows.
Exactly.
Yep. Also wanted to ask you too. I know the years you played. Did you play with a guy by the name of Lynn Murray?
Oh yeah, Lynn Murray was a defensive back. Actually, my freshman year was his. He was a junior college transfer, I believe, and then my second year there, which would have been his senior year, I was redshirted that year. I had a neck injury. I actually had the same neck injury that Darryl Talley had. And Dr. Nugent, had a lot of numbness, wouldn't go away, and Dr. Nugent recommended that I sit out and not play. So I just lived in the weight room with Dave Van Hallinger, and who was the strength coach at the time. But yeah, Lynn was a great athlete.
Lynn's another good friend of mine. I worked with him some up in Morgantown the last couple of years. And I always have to mention him because he's such a character. And usually people will tell me they have stories about him, but they just can't tell them on the air. So
Exactly.
I don't ask any questions about him. I just ask if you happen to know him. So,
oh yeah.
Frank, you want to jump in? And like I said, I don't know what you guys talked about before, but you jump on in there. Don't let me hog all the time.
Well, just thinking about what you two were just talking about, we all know this, that the times change and we have to adapt. You have to adapt it. I mean, you have to do your job. But one of the things that we had, I shouldn't say it's completely gone, but as you were saying, Derek, with long-term commitment of coaches, I mean, this, coaches are not just coaching the game. They're really coaching life, and the influence that coaches have on young athletes is not something that ends when they graduate. They're role models, many of them positive role models. And that is more difficult when you've got a situation where you don't know who your coach is going to be. And then, you don't have those long-term relationships. And the same thing affects college teams now. When you think about how long players stay at one school, just look at what happened at WVU this year. We knew it was going to happen, but even many of the players that Rich Rod brought in when he came back to Morgantown have now either left through the portal or have been cut and have entered the portal. And so it's those relationships, what we were talking about earlier, like you guys had with the 1980 era Mountaineers, gets strained because the relationships aren't as deep and as extensive as they once were.
Yeah, I would like to think that players still play for the love of the game. I don't know that, I'm not there on that level, or, you'd like to think that that's what they play for, but I don't know about that anymore. I think they're not, it's just not we all played for each other. We played for Mountaineers. We played, we worked together and we played for each other. And, like I used to tell the team, when I'm working with a guy and I've been in that weight room and I've been training with this guy and I look over beside me and it's 4th and 1 and I know I can count on him because he's been there. If you got a guy that he's a first-year player, you don't know that guy's work ethic. You don't know anything about him really. The relationship's not there. The commitment, you don't know his commitment level. And does it mean the same thing to him as it does to you? And I don't know that you have that these days. And again, I don't know the dynamics. And if anybody can bring that dynamic back, I'm sure Rich can, because he knows that dynamic. He knows how important that is. And again, to get kids to stay and again, build the relationship, build the camaraderie, play for the Mountaineers and that type of thing. I don't know. I think a lot of players play for themselves these days and what's in it for me.
Yep. I think any of us that are fans can see that and know that that's happening. Do you see, and I don't know how much interaction you have in the athletic end of things at your school, but is the idea of, I know in some states, Pennsylvania for one, the idea of NIL, is that trickling into high school? I know down in the Kanawha Valley area at the time, it was a really difficult time for kids transferring all over the place. And, I don't know, there wasn't NIL, but there was something going on. But
yeah, I think you're right, Greg. It is. That's an issue as well as kids. The gate's been open and kids are going to go. They're going to go wherever, and that's been allowed. I don't know if that's a good decision or not, because again, you lose that community and you lose that when a kid can just go wherever he wants to, and we're talking high school football here,
Yeah.
and again, that's developmental players really, and I do know that I know Florida has it, Texas has it, and I saw where Alabama, some kid was offered $700-some thousand to transfer school as a junior. I mean, those are 18-year-old, 17-year-old kids, and even in college, you're giving them millions of dollars. I just don't. I know that's hard for me to swallow sometimes. We got $25 a month for laundry money. That's what we got. And
Yep.
if you had to stay in the dorm for 3 years, so you developed, you lived with them, you played with them. Like I said in the beginning, you got to know them, you got to know their families, you got to know everybody.
Mm-hmm. Well,
Yes,
one of the things I think, Greg and Derek, that we deal with, and it happens in all aspects of life, things tend to swing from one end of the continuum to the other. You guys deserved more than $25 for a month, and yet you couldn't. The NCAA was rock solid on that, and that was too restrictive. And now the NCAA is playing hide and seek, and there are no boundaries. It's the Wild West. So it's gone to the other end of the continuum. And so what people are hoping for, and it remains to be seen, we'll know soon, once this, what they call the House settlement, a fellow by the name of House is the lead plaintiff. Once that House settlement with the NCAA takes effect, there will be guardrails really for the first time that relates to how much money universities will need to devote to be able to support athletes, and we'll just see. Hopefully, that'll be the beginning of some kind of getting more toward the middle, where these athletes are able to secure resources that many of them need and they deserve, but not to the point where it's pro level.
Exactly. Until there's some restrictions in place, it's going to be the wild, wild west, just like you said. And I think it causes a lot of people to lose interest in it too. Just like I was speaking to you last week, it's hard to even know the names of our players because they're gone in a year. You don't even get to know who's playing. So it's hard to, we're always going to follow the Mountaineers because that's our team. But to know the players, it's just, we're always going to cheer the Mountaineers on, but to get to know the players and who they are, it seems like it's, in place now, and it's hard again for people to follow that.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not against kids getting money. I agree because universities are making millions of dollars on these athletes, and we got our school paid for and our books paid for and living expense. You lived in the dorm, and then if you lived outside the dorm, you got $315 a month. But the first 3 years, you were made to stay in the dorm.
Mm-hmm. And
I think Coach Nehlen finally lifted that. But again, it's just it can turn into the wild, wild west. It's just crazy. And then you're going to get all these universities that have all the money getting all the top players, and it's in the playoff system, it's going to be the same teams over and over again. I mean, you'll have a few Cinderella stories probably, but in the end, it's going to be your top athletes are going to be the ones playing for the championship, which that happens anyway.
Well, that's whether the proof is in the pudding, as a friend of mine used to say, whether this House settlement will make it more possible for teams like West Virginia to compete. And we've talked about this on the show, is that what we want to see is more teams do what Indiana did last year, be able to not only really do well, but make it to the House settlement. By the way, I was looking at the chatter on the Voice of College Football. This is being telecast through the New River Network, and the side conversation is that Mungo McMichael, the great Bears football player, has passed away. And I was thinking about that. And Mike Patrick, who is near and dear to West Virginia and just was a terrific play-by-play guy, salt of the earth, passed away yesterday. And it's interesting because not interesting, it's important. That's what you remember about the game. It's the people who played the game. It's the people who were affiliated with the game. It was the times you lived when McMichael played, when Patrick called the games. That's in our memory banks, and it's really important to us. And it's really sad, Derek, that all this focus on money and pro-like activity and the rich get richer and the poor have to really scramble is really there because for the fans, that's not what we get excited about in terms of college sports. It's just not.
Well, again, are we, is West Virginia going to be one of those universities that develop players and that, because our coffers aren't as full as a Notre Dame or Ohio State. So are we going to develop just like the running back that went from here to Ohio State? Are we going to develop those players that then let them go? Are we going to be able to keep those type of players, to again get us to the deep into the playoffs?
And I think that's one of the big issues is that a program like WVU's, who may not have the money as these other programs, you get players in. Everybody talks about, well, we got to bring players in. I hear a lot of our fans say this: you got to bring them in, you got to develop them over 2 or 3 years. Well, the problem with that is once you develop them and they become good players, then there's a price tag on them. And
they're looking elsewhere, and they get they get visions of grandeur, just like. And I'm afraid what's going to happen is they could shoot themselves in the foot, just like the quarterback of Tennessee.
Yep.
He was stood to make $2 million, and he went out to UCLA, and I guess it's $1 million now. He won $4 million or whatever.
Yeah.
So, I mean, again, that's a 21-year-old kid, 20-year-old kid. I just don't, see that's. I don't know. It's again you got to play for the love of the game at this stage.
Yeah, and when you think about the role of the assistant coach and as Greg said, the coaching up, the developing. Tom Bowman and I were talking today, and I mentioned that to you before the show, Derek. And he was talking, and I agreed with him. We had Kevin White on the show a couple of a couple of months ago. And when you think about a guy that came from Arizona that really wasn't expected to be a starter at West Virginia, I don't think he expected to be a starter. He expected to be a contributor, and then becomes a frontline quarterback, starts, and was quarterback, tremendous game manager, and had skills, obviously skills, but he was coached up to the point that he was able to take over as first string quarterback. And when you think of that 84 season with back-to-back wins over Boston College and Penn State, the quarterback was Kevin White. And that means he came to West Virginia, stayed at West Virginia, had an opportunity to learn the system, to be developed by the coaches, and then he came in and performed. And that's one of the casualties in what's going on today. I mean, it's a real casualty with these kids transferring here, there, and everywhere, maybe 3 or 4 times during their collegiate career. And it's a disadvantage to a school like West Virginia and other schools I've attended, Iowa State, for example, where their staple has been bringing in a 2 and 3 star and then coaching that player. And some of them have gone on to be pros.
Again, I think that's you hit the nail on the head, especially in the 80s. I mean, I can name 5 or 6 guys right off the top of my head that waited their turn in 1984. That was their 3rd year there. They became starters, and they started, in 83 and 84. They waited their turn. They came in 81. They waited their turn, and we were successful. Again, that to me, that's that camaraderie where you play for each other and you develop with each other as you grow. You grow together, and again, it means more on the field to me than somebody who just came in, yesterday and going to try to fit in. He may or may not fit in. I don't know. That's the thing you got to figure out. Is he going to fit in or not?
Yeah,
And
Frank,
I understand coaches too, because coaching now on that level, on the collegiate level, is you better win or you won't be here long.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. Not much of a rope. And I know, one of the prime examples of that, I think you back as a Mountaineer fan, you look back at that 1988 team that played in the national championship. If you look at that closely, we had 5 fifth-year seniors started on the offensive line.
Exactly.
And,
all those guys were freshmen in '85. They were all freshmen at that time.
Yep.
And they grew together. And I heard Rich made the comment the last time he was here coaching. He makes his living on guys that watch cartoons and eat Cheerios for breakfast, and eat Fruit Loops for breakfast. And he depends on them for his paycheck.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a scary proposition. Especially those of us that's coached and taught in the high school ranks.
Exactly.
Frank, you want to finish up? We're about out of time here before we say goodbye to Derek. You got anything else?
Yeah, it's interesting. I was thinking about, I wonder if people were having this conversation. I don't remember them, but maybe we were back in the 80s and saying, boy, the game's going in the wrong direction, and wish it could be like it was in the 60s and 70s. Maybe we were, but it's, the situation that we're dealing with today seems a lot more serious, because a lot of the things that we love most about the game, that we want to see in the game, and also the opportunity, as you said, Derek, for these players that come in and show that they belong in major college football, and they may not be that they can't step in, many of them, the first year, but learn the system, get coached up, mature both physically and mentally, and by the 3rd year, say, start to contribute and be first line players. And the games are, both in basketball and football, are less and less like that. We're just going to have to see how it evolves.
You have them coming in, and Greg can tell you the expectation level, the commitment level that's required to play Division I. A lot of kids don't even have a clue of the time commitment and what it takes to be successful on that level. there's a lot of athletes that, just couldn't do it because it's demanding, and you have to be structured, and you have to again, be committed and love what you're doing, or it's not going to work for you.
I always said as a coach, I always wished that I had $1 for every kid or every kid's parent that I heard say was going to play Division I. And then I wish I had $1 for every one of them that didn't. Because
Well, like I told him, I said, if we had that many Division I football players, we'd be undefeated every year.
That's right. Yeah, they don't understand. Sure don't understand. Derek, I tell you what, it's been a pleasure. Again, apologize for all the foolishness, and it's been great to hear from you. And Frank and I always talk as we've done this. We're always impressed by what happens to these Mountaineer players after they get out of WVU and what they do afterwards. You're no exception to that. Admire you greatly for from one teacher to another and a special ed teacher to another. Admire you greatly for what you've done and what you're still doing. And we appreciate you again for coming on the show with us.
Well, I appreciate you having me and giving me the opportunity, gentlemen. I appreciate it very much.
Oh, it's been awesome. We thank you again.
Anytime. I'm sorry we kind of got delayed there in the beginning, but I had a couple things happen that it's out of my control there. So.
Well, I think we all kind of experienced, or at least I did, experience the same thing, and then I think Muggy McLeod did as well. But we persevered and made it through.
Yes, sir. We sure do.
All right. Thank you so much, Derek. Nice to talk to you.
Thank you, man. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
All right. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Derek.
Eric Christian, WVU, great, good football player, great guy. And, I've heard, through my coaching, of course, he was coaching the same time I was teaching, what a good person he is and what a good coach he was. And it's always, like I said, always neat to hear, from these guys after they get out of WVU. It's always impressive what they've accomplished, what they've done in their professional lives. He's no exception.
Yeah. It's just, as I look at individuals, but also look at sort of the era. And as I was mentioning earlier in the show, very strong positive feelings about the early and evolving Don Nehlen years that really put Humpty Dumpty back on the wall in WVU football. And boy, to get to know these guys and learn more about them as individuals, get to interact with them, develop relationships with them. It's really fantastic. And you see that back in the guys who played in the 50s, with Huff and Freddie Wyant and that group. And then in the late 60s, the guys who played for Jim Carlin and Bobby Bowden through the 70s. And then with the Nehlen group and then the Rich Rod group, those are the eras that stand out to me, and the way they talk and the experiences they've had and the games they played in. It's just, as I said earlier, it's part of your memory bank as a fan. You still remember those games you went to back then. You'll be with those memories for the rest of your life.
Absolutely. And speaking of those memories, I hate that I didn't ask. I want to get his. I mean, you may have. I want to get his memories of the Oklahoma game at '82. Most people feel like elevated our program to a different level, and he was a part of that. And I wanted to get his take on that, and let it slip my mind, which is not uncommon. But you have those memories, and like I said, it's hard now, not knowing the players, and it's just a different feeling now. Even when we win a big game, it's still not the same, And I know this is the old get off my lawn, old man talking, but I remember games from back in the '80s, and remember players and that sort of thing. And then from the last 5-8 years, I have a hard time remembering people. I'll hear names. Oh, I remember when he played, but I don't have the memories of the games and that type of thing like I used to have. And I know it's a different time, it's a different era, and the game's changed and things are different. But like you said, you hope that the changes that we looked at from, in my case, from the 70s to the 80s, from the 80s to the 90s to the 90s, 2000, early 2000s, was fundamental changes in the way the game's played, you know, spread offenses, that sort of thing. Not changes where players are going all over the place and getting paid to play and that sort of thing. So yeah, I think this is a dynamic change that we're seeing, and it's going to be getting more dynamic as time goes on. So the changes that we're witnessing today are a lot different than the changes we witnessed 10 years ago, 20 years ago, 30 years ago. So it's just a whole different change in the way the game is played.
Oh boy, is that true? And I was thinking about this the other day. For years, my routine has been, and certainly as we prepare for this show, is this time of the year you'd go to your newsstand and pick up your Street and Smiths,
Yeah.
and the local players would be on the cover. You'd go to your teams and go through and how do the other teams look? And between now, well, football portal's going to close on Friday.
Right.
Between Friday and next Wednesday's show, we've got to go back to college and learn who's on the WVU roster.
Yep.
That's just the way it is. And that's just the WVU roster. Last year we sized up the other teams, and we can't do that this year. We don't know who's going to be at Arizona or who's going to be at Colorado in terms of the way we used to know it. And so it's really interesting. I mean, I just don't know. I'm just gonna have to do my homework, and you're gonna have to do the homework too. And then we're gonna have Keenan Cummings on from Rivals.com with us in 2 weeks. So we'll take a first cut at it next Wednesday, and then he'll be with us the following week to do a deeper dive. So we can become educated, and the fans can become educated at who's on the roster, what do the prospects look like, what is the two deep, speculate what the two deep looks like. It's a whole different ball game, and we got to do the same thing with basketball.
Yep. Yeah, and again, that's so different. I guess we're just going to learn to roll with it, and like you said, used to be you would say, well, we've got our defense should be solid. We got 8 guys coming back on defense. We should be good. So and so's in this position. So and so's here. It's not that way anymore. So now we have to wait. You can look at the names, and you can read about them. You can watch video, whatever you want to do. But
that's right.
It comes down to knowing what it's going to be like. You're not going to know until the game starts, and
that's right.
That's just going to be a whole new way of approaching this and looking at it from a fan perspective. And like I said, it just this portal thing it makes your head spin. Sometimes you see these people, and my first thought, and I know this is probably coming from being an old Mountaineer fan, is that when I see we land a big player in basketball, football, whatever, I'm like, wonder what's wrong with him. Wonder why. How do you end up at WVU? What's going on here? It shouldn't be that way, but I do. I am, and especially basketball. You see a big 7-footer, everybody out there knows he's there, and you just wonder how we get him. But anyway, it's a different take on all of it, and like you said, you got to do your homework and try to keep up with it, and all you can do is project. Even after you see the roster, you still just project. Are we used to having a good idea? Well, we're going to be decent, based on our skill positions, that sort of thing. Now you don't know, and you just project. Well, this guy played, he played 9 games for Penn State. He was a really good receiver. He should be good for us. We'll see. But you just don't know. But yeah, it's a changing world. So I don't necessarily like it, but I know not a thing in the world I can do to change it, and it's not going to change anyway soon.
Well, it's interesting because there's something that you brought up last week that Kathy Fear, my wife, spouse, picked up on, and we had a conversation after it, and it was using my words. What's your focus these days? Is it the name on the back of the jersey or the name on the front of the jersey? When you think, I don't know how many college basketball teams will have completely new rosters next year, that every single player left. And so that happened at Baylor, and I think it happened at Maryland too. And so the point is, we all have strong feelings for the name on the front of the jersey, whether it's football or basketball. It's West Virginia, but you root also for the players with the name of the back of the jersey, and that's becoming more difficult because they come and go so quickly, and so it's changed. It's changed, I think, what it means to be a fan and how we think about the game as a fan, and yet, we still love it. Obviously, we still love it.
Oh yeah, yeah. Like you said, it's it's the name on the front and not the back because you don't always know the name on the back and you don't get to know them. Like I said, they either ship out from somewhere else or ship in from somewhere else, so you really
Yeah.
don't know that. And it's as a fan, I think at first when these guys would leave our program, it would hurt us and hurt our feelings. God, I can't believe they're leaving us. But then when you look at it and see what's going on all over the country, and you realize it's become a big money business, and
Yeah.
you can't fault players for
No.
trying to better themselves, trying to make more money. You can't fault them for that. Again, I just think like we've talked over and over and over again at nauseum is that got to be some parameters. There's got to be some rails put up somewhere to keep this thing on track and keep it from just going crazy, worse than what it is now. And hopefully, once this settlement is taken care of and all that gets leveled out, then hopefully it'll slow it down just a little bit. I don't know that it will, but I'm hopeful.
Yeah, I think everybody's with you on that, Craig.
Yeah,
no question about it all. And I think that's one of the things that makes the baseball team so refreshing, because the guys that were playing last year, they're playing again this year. Salve is still playing, and they've got really good ball players, and you get to follow them. You follow them through their career. Hopefully, that the number of them will make the majors or at least have a shot, and they're winning. And through all this instability, the Mountaineer baseball team gives us something to root for as we get ready for the fall.
Yeah, I think again that's you look at like your football program for example, Nico is extremely popular, in West Virginia. And I just I've often thought I wonder is it popular because is he popular because he's good? Is he popular because he's waiting his turn, or is he popular because he's one of the few names we recognize on the roster? But I think it's because he waited his turn. I think people people admire that there is somebody that will wait in the folds to get their chance, and hopefully it pays off for him. And I think I think that's one of the reasons why he is so popular, because he's hung around.
Yeah, and he's really become the face of the program. Yeah. I mean, he does an awful lot of community service work. He's at the hospital. He's at social events. He's at fan gatherings, and you can tell he's not doing it as a job. He really enjoys it.
Yeah.
That's really important. But if players are here and gone in a short period, they never get a chance to be like a Nico Marchiol. And that's going to translate. I've already heard it, and in fact, I feel it myself. You want that guy to be the starting quarterback because you've developed a fan relationship with him, and that's really important. But we just have to adapt and do what we can to find those parts of the current scheme that we can tolerate, and then the rest will take care of itself, because we're not going to change it.
That's right. We're not going to change it, and the Nicos are few and far between, but hopefully there's some still out there, and again, we'll keep rooting for the front of it. So
that's right. That's right.
That's the main thing.
That's right.
All right, Frank. Well, we bobbled it around a little bit there at the beginning, but finally got it. We got it away where we got a show put out. So I hope everybody that tuned in enjoyed the show, and we look forward to another good show next week, next Wednesday. We hope you'll join us for that. Again, we appreciate everyone. Derek Christian for joining us. Muggy McLeod, we appreciate Derek for the behind-the-scenes work. Frank, thank you again for putting all the work in that you do. And we look forward to everyone coming back and joining us next Wednesday night on the Mountaineer Locker Room, then and now, here on the New River Network and the Voice of College Football. Thanks, everybody, and good night.